Hi, I'm Ben from Innometrix, and we're developing a device suite that provides reliable data to reduce complications and improve outcomes in women's healthcare. Having a baby is one of the most special and exciting things that can happen to a woman, but it's physically traumatic, and it leaves lasting, permanent, stretch-induced changes in the abdominal and the pelvic tissues. As a woman ages, these manifest as pelvic organ prolapse. What this means is that the muscles and the ligaments that support the bladder, the rectum, the vagina, and the uterus break down, and these organs begin to shift. This leads to a lot of troublesome symptoms, most notably of which is incontinence. This family of disorders is the second leading reason that women have a surgery, more common than C-sections, and incontinence alone is the #1 reason that women will end up in a nursing home. Despite staggering statistics like that, the stigma associated with topics like grandma's incontinence means that this is a silent epidemic. Millions of women are living with these problems, but they're under-innovated and they're under-treated. Meanwhile, we're spending $30 billion a year managing and treating these disorders. So the most common form of incontinence in women is stress urinary incontinence. Basically, a pressure event in the abdomen, like a sneeze or a cough, presses on the bladder, causes kinking in the urethra, and a small amount of urine is lost. This can happen dozens of times a day, leading to embarrassing wetness. It can be difficult or impossible for a woman to manage discreetly. There's a really good treatment for this, and that's a mid-urethral sling, where a piece of surgical mesh is placed underneath the urethra. This provides support during that pressure event and prevents that urine from being lost. But this is a fairly tricky surgery. If it's too tight, it can cause complications. You can block the urethra. That woman won't be able to urinate without a catheter. You can put stress on the local tissues, leading to severe vaginal pain. And in the worst case, it can actually shred and erode through those local tissues. If it's too loose, doesn't provide any support, and that woman will still leak. So in order to get this tension right, a doctor can adjust the sling up and down at the time of surgery. They'll use a spacer tool between the sling and the urethra, such as some scissors, maybe a clamp, a dilator, something that's sterile and available in the surgical field, but nothing specialized. Beyond that, it's a blind shot all on skill. In the end, this becomes highly inconsistent. A faculty member in urogynecology at a major medical school called this kind of a crapshoot. So it's the most common surgery in women's health care. At 250,000 of these done a year, or in pelvic floor disorders, 250,000 of these done a year, all out of a kit from one of these major manufacturers. None of these guys have a system to help you get that tension correct. But we do. The Innometrix sling gauge replaces those impromptu tools with a dedicated solution. It provides objective feedback regarding how tight you're setting that sling. So let's talk about how this works. Basically, you get a feedback. It replaces that same spacer tool, and basically you get a feedback that shows, okay, well, maybe you're too loose. As you tighten up, you're in the right range. Okay, you've gone past, and now it gives you an alert, so you can adjust it back down and nail that tension. This will bring better outcomes, including more women seeing the symptoms that they are living with improved or cured, and fewer women facing one of those troublesome and tragic complications. It also is a significant relief on the surgeon who doesn't have to hit that slot blind anymore. We're a Class 2 device with our initial indication. We'll be taking this through a 510(k) clearance. And we're reimbursed as part of the bundled surgical payment for that sling surgery. We're targeting a price of around $100 per unit. In the US, this scales out to about a $25 million annual product potential directly. It also has a lot of value as a pull-through with one of those major strategics when they incorporate this into one of their fleets. So we're taking this to market first by publishing and presenting our efficacy studies with the major foundations, trade organizations, and journals in this area. We'll target our first customers as the research clinicians at the major medical institutions. These are the people who really drive the opinions and the adoption of new technologies in this field. It also has the advantage of being where the next generation of surgeons are being trained so they can adopt our new technology. It's also where they're forming their habits that they're going to carry through the rest of their careers. We'll move beyond the research institutions, and we'll be targeting high-volume surgical sites and use that momentum to drive us towards a strategic partnership with one of those major kit manufacturers. Beyond the sling gauge, Innometrix has product options including a vaginal biomechanics technology that scans and diagnoses the pelvic floor and has many applications in mitigating and preventing obstetric risk and diagnosing and tracking pelvic floor disorders. Like I said, I'm Ben Weed. I have a PhD from Mississippi State in biomedical engineering. I have almost a decade of experience in early stage device development and biomechanics research. My co-founder, Ali Bourajani, is doing his doctoral work at Cleveland Clinic in one of the top pelvic floor disorder research groups in the world. He's also received a very prestigious National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship to pursue this and works closely with many of those opinion-leading surgeons. Dr. Jun Lau is a leader in the field of biomechanics. He also has a proven track record in gaining funding from the National Institute of Health and the National Science Foundation, which will help us as we pursue small business and tech transfer grants. He also has extensive experience with animal clinical studies at the Mississippi State Vet School. Kathy Connell is a urogynecologist at UC Denver. She's a key opinion leader in both the science and the clinical aspects of this field, and she's been instrumental in connecting us with other opinion leaders in this area. And Greg Mitchell, who has over 35 years of experience with everything from startups to the Fortune 50, is helping us with strategy and finance. So far, we've raised $50,000 through the ZeroTo510 program. We've developed our initial first functional prototype. We've got a provisional and a full utility patent around our devices. And we've secured our first 3 trial surgeons as we move forward with our efficacy studies. We're raising $1.2 million to complete our preclinical and our clinical efficacy studies, to file for our 510(k) clearance, and to capture those early academic medical centers so that we can drive towards that strategic exit on the sling gauge. Millions of women are living with debilitating symptoms, and they're living with this in silence because there aren't tools and resources available to help cure what they have. And Innometrix is changing that. So I'm inviting all of you to help me and help us change this as we move forward with these products. Thank you very much.